So CEO and founder of Aave Labs. Maybe let's jump straight in. So Jean-Marc, you are the CEO of a subsidiary of a tier one investment bank who has launched its own MiCAR-approved euro stablecoin, which is pretty impressive. That's a big break against the mold, some would say. I think one question, and we've touched on this over the course of the day, is around capital allocation, capital efficiency. So what fundamentally changes in terms of capital allocation when you use blockchain versus traditional financial systems?
Yeah, sure. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for having me here on the panel. Thank you, Stani and Aave. I think I believe to the Aave friends, indeed. And maybe before answering your question, I think what is indeed key in what you said, and that's something we truly believe at Société Générale for a while, is that actually blockchain technology and all the new developments we are seeing, especially in the DeFi space, are actually fundamentally and truly transforming the way capital markets and payments and part of what we are doing as a bank is doing. I mean, it's really happening, and that's precisely why we have decided already 5 years ago to create this subsidiary, Société Générale-Forge, which is hosting the developments we are doing in crypto within Société Générale. And that's also why we are investing so much and being even more and more active in the space, because we do think it's going to change, probably shorter time that many people may think, the way we operate our activities. So in this journey, as some of you may remember, we started by issuing tokenized securities already 5 years ago on the Ethereum blockchain. That was digital bond at the time. And very quickly, indeed, we moved to issuing our own stablecoin, the Euro convertible and USD convertible. And what it is changing for our clients is precisely the improvement in the services we can deliver as a bank in terms of velocity of the money, cost of making these transactions happening, the fact that it's happening 24/7, which is not as easy as everyone knows when using the traditional banking rails. So basically making the client service much better and most efficient and cheaper for everyone.
A question, and this I'm already going off piece, so forgive me. Is it hard to do what you're doing within the institution?
Well, yes. I think it's still hard. I think it was especially hard at the very beginning. I think it's fair to say that Société Générale has been pretty early in that space. Again, when we started these operations and these developments with Société Générale-Forge, no, it seems like a long time ago, but we should remember it was a time where banks and financial markets and financial institutions were sitting on one side of the room and the crypto ecosystem on the other one. And when you were talking about crypto in the banks, it was all about money laundering and stuff like that, and Ponzi scheme with Bitcoin and stuff like that. It took us a bit to have the bank and all the stakeholders we have, including the regulators and the central bank, understand that beyond the early use cases, the technology itself was precisely changing or potentially changing the way we would operate our businesses going forward. And just for that, we needed to develop our own capabilities.
Okay, thank you. Stani, over to you. In terms of, you've spoken about the Aave Will Win framework recently, which I hope everybody has seen. If not, check it out. You talk a lot about the, I guess, core finance global infrastructure, which Aave can become. Are you looking to replace the way capital allocation is done, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that the nature of capital allocation at its core is always the same. I think it's a social and financial behavior. I think that the technology around and the structure around it will evolve, and I think that we're in an interesting place because capital allocation has existed like forever, and it's always part of technological disruption or some sort of a progress. And I think it's part of something where that takes us to a kind of like a more advanced or a better or efficient world, and it's part of financing a lot of goals. And I think that the transformation to more like paper to digital was quite successful. And even before Aave, I used to build fintech products, and I had a fintech startup. And my always sort of a dream was that building financial products that anyone can access and anyone can get benefit of, and that exists in somewhat sense. But I think in fintech you kind of have different barriers. Like you have to use different vendors. You have a lot of permissioning. It's very regional, and it never felt that you could actually program capital allocation, or you can be truly programmable. And I feel that with Ethereum and with Aave and DeFi, that opportunity exists. And that's why DeFi summer was incredible time, because anyone just could come and build things and experiment. And it was such a new thing that you have this like basically an internet computer where you feed code and you can do things with money essentially, or value. And that was really incredible. And now that the ecosystem in DeFi matured over the years, I kind of find that there's actually a ways to, and I don't like to use the word replace, because it feels very sudden, and finance is very fragile and very slow for a reason, because it is the backbone of whole economy. But I think that it's going to slowly replace a lot of the functions and the way we do business and the technology in traditional finance. And I don't know, like what's your opinion, and what Forge and thinks about what is the biggest value of the system. But I came to the conclusion that actually DeFi and blockchains can be a way of restructuring the cost structure of finance, making it more, reducing paper, reducing bureaucracy, reducing manual work, automating, making it transparent. And this just ends up being more efficient, and because of that, it ends up being more cheaper. And that is what then slowly is starting to eat the traditional financial infrastructure.
Would you like to respond?
I would like to know why, like, how do you see it?
Yeah, exactly, because I think it's a very critical point you just raised. And I think actually we see that happening in many industries. Right? Everything is going to be more digital. Industries are being operated as platforms, and I think there is no reason why finance and banks should move in a different direction of travel. So I think in this thought process, it's very important to be conscious of what is your position in the value chain and what are the core propositions you are bringing to your client base. When it comes to banks and financial institutions more broadly, I think what the core of what we are doing is basically to transform risk, to channel operations, to connect origination channels on one hand and distribution network on the other hand, and to provide value-added financial services to clients. And for that, as we are a regulated industry, we have a well-structured balance sheet, and we have teams who are operating that. Nowhere in this equation, it's written somewhere, you operate a system or you operate a platform. Actually, that's just tools we are using to basically to deliver these services. And in making these services more efficient, better, obviously, if there are solutions which are appropriate, safe, and which the value added has been demonstrated, and I think for DeFi protocols, at least the largest one, like Aave, I think this has been largely proven in the market, considering the operations which are already carried on some assets, starting with the cryptocurrencies years ago, but we know these are flowing to more real-world assets. This value creation has been proven. Already 2 years ago, I was on a panel and I said that, in my view, banks will be the largest clients of DeFi protocol in a few years. And I still believe it, and I think it's actually more and more true. We will be facing clients. We will be doing tomorrow what we do today, making sure the suitability there for the clients, making sure the products are well designed and are efficient and so on. But we will be using different way of operating our own systems, and DeFi is a very valid candidate for that, I think.
What did people say when you said that? Like, do people think you're crazy?
Well, again, to your first question, it was hard a few years ago, but I think we were, SocGen is a very entrepreneurial bank and a bank of engineers, so we are very lucky to find a lot of people within the bank to whom all this resonated and were ready to listen to us and to follow us in the first experiment. And as we moved from year to year, as we delivered transactions for our clients, again, digital bond issuances, structured product issuances on the Ethereum blockchain, then we did that on other networks as well. Then we did organized delivery versus payment transactions using stable coins in different ways. Same with us. Transactions after transactions, we had more clients following us, and also the internal management of the bank and some partners as well, which give us the opportunity to start this journey and know to accelerate in this environment. And I think the acceleration is indeed very steep. We see that across multiple use cases with different clients, from retail investors who are turning more and more to our stable coins, at least in the MiCA environment in Europe. MiCA is dramatically changing the crypto landscape in Europe, and I think there is a very strong need for well-regulated stablecoin as the one we are issuing at Société Générale-Forge, the Euro convertible and USD convertible, but also for other services in the crypto space that I think banks are very keen and very natural to bring to the market.
Okay, well, that's great to hear. Stani, back to you. So on one side, we have DeFi, and then on the other side, we have regulated institutions like Société, Générale-Forge. Are the two compatible when it comes to permissionless finance?
I think there's a definitely the way I think about the permissionless aspect is that like if you want to create better markets, and you have to look at existing systems and what could be done better, and in some ways public blockchains were able to do that and progress. So the fact that DeFi is permissionless also means that it's transparent. You see more, you have more visibility than financial institutions may have, traditionally speaking. If you think about sending payments from one bank to another, that might be the sort of like a widest visibility. Whereas in on-chain, transactions are traceable up to the latest point, and typically most of these transactions come from an exchange or go back to an exchange and sort of like entry and exit points. So overall, like that sort of aspect is healthy with comparing to the traditional finance of like trying to understand more risk, understanding what kind of transactions are happening. And then when it comes to smart contracts and execution, smart contracts always guarantee the execution, and it's very hard to break that execution. And I think that is really compatible with ideas like having best execution for users, and obviously there's some nuances that can be done better, but especially when it comes to lending, that is the case. on the execution side. So there's a lot of actually parts about DeFi and that defines DeFi that is actually really compatible on the idea of building better financial infrastructure, but also getting better outcomes for market participants by increasing transparency, certainty, and execution. So from that perspective, yes. But there's another side of the coin is that a lot of this technology is new, right? And a lot of the approaches have to be different, for example. And I do think that the responsibility of those endpoints, they will move to maybe to regulated entities, like, for example, banks in the future. So I like this whole idea of DeFi being sort of a neutral technological layer, the same way as, for example, AI is, or a payment network. And then the actual services are provided on a next product or like application layer. A great example of this is that last week we integrated Aave into Wob, which is a e-commerce platform that has over 21 million users, and they can now access to Aave with Wob Treasury product, and that's a great example of having a fintech in the front and Aave in the back, and in the future it will be, the banks in the front and Aave in the back. And Aave could be used, and DeFi in general, as sort of more of an infrastructure. And then you can also structure or compose the market structures that you need for particular different use cases. So if there is a appetite to actually have a pools between a certain amount of banks in regional way, that can be structured. So I think there's a lot of way to compose that. But I truly believe that the winner of everything is going to be a system that is as open as possible, but as auditable and transparent as possible, because they have to go hand in hand to ensure that the usage is what we want this system to be used for, and the most resilient way possible. And for me, the resiliency, it comes from systems and networks like Ethereum, where you have this massive security securing all this liquidity. And if you think about all these years, like Ethereum has never been down. And this is like what you want from a financial infrastructure and everything that is built on top.
Got it, okay. Jean-Marc, you've issued your own MiCAR-approved Euro stablecoin. You're not relying on another stablecoin issuer. Is that about regulation? Is it trust? Is it economics? All of the above?
Yes, maybe just first to say that I fully agree on with what you just said, Stani, and it's exactly, I think, the same vision we are sharing here, and the place of banks and DeFi, decentralized finance, I think is well articulated this way. To your question on the stablecoin, I mean, the very first reason why we have decided, almost 2 years ago, to issue our own stablecoin was actually because we had client demands for that. As I said, we started our journey at Société Générale-Forge with tokenized assets and issuing tokenized securities. After a few transactions, very quickly we had clients, institutional clients, TradFi clients, not people in the crypto space, who actually came to us saying that all this was great, and they were seeing the value added of having digital securities for, again, everything it brings in terms of distribution capability, speed, 24/7 operations, and so on and so forth. That was great, but when it comes to settle these assets, paying for these assets and delivering these assets, we are falling back in the old legacy system and had to articulate traditional payment rails in fiat euro or dollar with these digital securities. And would it be great to also have a digital cash on chain to settle for that? So believe it or not, but the initial demand came from that angle and TradFi clients. And actually it happened pretty much at the same time as we had the Terra Luna collapse in the crypto space. And a few months later, we also had clients, large player in the crypto ecosystem, especially hedge funds, who also came to us and saying, you have this platform which allows you to issue banking grade digital securities. Why don't you do it as well on cash? We are issuing structured product on chain at the time with a crazy payoff. Issuing an asset which is worth €1 or dollar all the time was actually simpler for us. That was 1 year before MiCA. And so, I mean, when you have clients asking you to do something, you feel very quickly that there is a market demand for that. We had MiCA as well on the agenda for a year later. And so we decided to launch our first stablecoin, the Euro 1, under French law. We restructure it under MiCA a bit later, and now we see the demand coming from either the crypto space, crypto ecosystem, with a very strong need for well-regulated and robust stablecoins, which are one of the backbones, one of the foundational things you need when operating in the crypto space. But we also have corporate and SMEs who are now turning to us to accelerate the cross-border payments they are making through stablecoins, and a bit more long-term, I think. But we also see a strong demand from financial institutions for settlement solutions for digital securities. As you may know, the dynamic has also re-accelerated here. We had some financial market infrastructures in Europe, such as Clearstream, for instance, or the Deutsche Börse, who are integrating stablecoins into their settlement operations. We had announcements in the US from DTCC and others who are considering the same for the short term. So I think all these developments are ahead of us, which creates a venue for adoption, which is large and very solid.
Okay, thank you. Stani, back to you. So we have Aave App, Aave Kit, Aave Horizon. Why is the product layer so important?
I think it's really important because I think we're reaching a point in DeFi where a lot of existing users are achieved and the audiences are sort of engaged. And this is a more of like a technical audience or sophisticated DeFi audience that use like the existing Aave interface and now with Aave v4, the Aave Pro interface, or tools like DeFi Saver, for example. And something is really missing is while we are seeing a lot of integrations into exchanges, you can use Aave through Kraken, for example, and you have now WAP with fintechs and so forth. We believe there is a really big gap also on reaching more new audiences that are completely outside of the crypto space. And I think we have now everything we need to get there. So we have embedded wallets. Privy is a great example of like how you can embed wallet technology and make it really easy. We have now better on-ramping at the moment. Banks are actually banking now again. Crypto companies, on-ramps, there's Bridge, which is a really amazing infrastructure. DeFi is mature enough, and we have vault technology as well. And I think that overall, to actually get DeFi to scale, you have to tap into this distribution layer. So that is basically going into integrations through, for example, for us, it means like Aave Kit into fintechs and traditional finance and institutions, Horizon for onboarding assets on the demand side to create more yield and scale DeFi, and then distribute that through a product layer. So it's all about how do we get the next tens of millions of users into DeFi. And we have all the tooling and ingredients. It's just about putting it all together. And Aave app is doing exactly that. Like it's abstracting away wallets, networks, stable coins. Like it feels very familiar. And And also, I think that local stablecoins like euro plays a huge role. I, for example, from my network, and I grew up in Europe, I grew up in Finland, and it's very hard to sell USD savings account. But euro feels obviously more natural because that is the currency that people spend across the euro countries. So we have to go where the users are and make it as easy as possible. So Aave app does it where existing infrastructure can't, and then you will see also more fintechs following the same path, and you will see banks following the same path, and eventually it all benefits everyone, because when you have a shared infrastructure as a public good, it means that the more liquidity you have, the more cheaper the borrowing is, and the more collateral and use cases you can add, you can utilize that, and it creates stronger network effects because it creates larger pools and smaller, for example, withdrawal risk on the pools, and it all compounds into just a better financial opportunities that anyone can tap into. So I think it's extremely important.
Thank you. Jean-Marc, one question that comes up frequently, and I've thought about this, asked this question, if you're speaking to European corporate treasurers, what do you say, or how do you get them to move from what they're doing today to using your stablecoin?
Well, I will first maybe say that it's precisely not that way we are approaching the question. If you start by talking about stablecoin and digital assets, usually it's the best way to end the meeting. No, but again, it's all about the user experience and what you bring to your client and your value added. If you explain that you have a Société branded solution which allows your clients, a corporate treasurer, for instance, to move money 24/7, to earn interest during the weekend, to do instant on and off ramp in crazy countries where it's tough to do so today. Then you have a different discussion, and at the end of the day and at the end of the meeting, if by curiosity the person asks how it's working and how we do that, then you can explain, that on the backstage, what you are doing is actually to integrate a stablecoin payment method into your traditional cash management solution. Make sure the user interface does not change. Make sure that your clients have the same smooth and seamless experience with you, but improving the service, making it quicker, cheaper, and probably safer as well, which is often a point which is underestimated when it comes to crypto and blockchain technology compared to traditional payment rails. Then here you have a case you can make, and that's when clients start to dig into that.
Okay, thank you. Two more quick questions. Stani, what's one thing institutions get wrong about DeFi?
Well, institutions like these, they don't get any. I mean, they're sort of like doing the hard work, in my opinion. But it is, it isn't really like. I think the information isn't equally distributed, and I do think that institutions that are real, true believers on the technology and really understand the value of Ethereum and the value of DeFi, and know how to approach. I think there's very few of these kinds of institutions. They are the sort of ones that live on the bleeding edge and really trying to move forward the space. I think the challenging part probably is kind of like how to educate like a whole organization and understand the benefit and how to prepare for like DeFi in the future, or understand how to integrate that down the line and the possibilities. I think that is one thing. And the second thing maybe is that obviously DeFi is really wide definition, and you can have DeFi innovation or things built on DeFi that are more like experimentations. Then you obviously have protocols that are building for like resiliency and building for like a real adoption and being able to sort of like identify what is safe and what's not, and what still needs to mature. I think that's always a big challenge, but I think assessing risk in general is such a new concept, and it's easy to get wrong. And I actually think that the technical risk is not the sort of biggest risk at the moment. It's more of like a counterparty risk that we are assessing quite a lot, is what is the counterparty of these different assets that are integrated? Is there any sort of like key arrangements that we have to take into consideration that could be compromised, and what happens and the risk there? Or especially with RWAs, we have to look into how we transparently can verify some of the off-chain behavior and risk as well. So it is actually like DeFi risk itself is a really difficult topic because there is not that many people that are experienced, and also DeFi kind of risk managers are less experienced with RWAs. So it's still nascent and growing, and I think that's going to be an interesting space to figure out.
Okay, Jean-Marc, last word to you. What do you think the DeFi world gets wrong or muddled about institutions? Imagine Stani isn't here.
Well, interesting question. But I would say it's probably the fact that, sorry to state the obvious, that we are here to do business as well, So if there are solutions which are well regulated with great business potential, I mean, for sure, financial institutions will step into that and deliver those solutions to their clients to grow their market share and promote new services to these clients.
So is it now friends moving to frenemies? Is that the territory we're moving into?
To strong collaboration and partnership, I think.
Okay, I like it. On that positive note, a big round of applause, please, for Jean-Marc and Stani.
Thank you.
All right, we got one more panel. So if you want to hang out with me and some others.